to ask is about the funding, because in New Zealand our policy is to fund medicines on the basis that they work for a population. And if I'm following your talk correctly, it seems that actually we need to start thinking about whether or not a particular drug makes sense for an individual, and perhaps even for a site within that individual. And I know that the funding of pharmaceuticals is very different in the US from here, but I just wondered, is there a conversation in train? How are the insurance companies in the US dealing with this revolution? Have they started?
Well, they have. So one of the things you have to bring out is now you're not just talking about the cost of the drug and the benefit of the drug, but now you've got the cost of the diagnostic assay to say you've got X and you've got Y driving your cancer. And some countries have got very organized. So France is the best example. So France, they've had a revolution, so I guess they know what they're doing. So they literally said, we're going to have 3 sites across the whole country, and we will do extensive molecular profiling for all cancer patients. All done on the same platform, boom, boom, boom. And what they've done is that now you go to France and you can say, okay, how many people have this mutation or that mutation? They can dial it all up. And they're just nailing clinical trial enrollment, because pharma goes to them and they say, well, we don't have to, so the government paid for the testing, and then they make their money because the pharma studies come in there and say, well, we already know who to give it. It is a challenge in other places. I think you have to think the big picture. My understanding is New Zealand's very good at negotiating down prices. So, maybe one of the things for a small country is if you can work together and get, if you said New Zealand knew the molecular makeup of all of its cancer patients, that people would be beating down the door to put the best drugs here. And that's not a huge investment, because the cost of, sequencing aspects of the genome is coming way, way down. Did that answer your question, or did I dodge the issue?
No, it's very helpful. But I guess a follow-up would be, and they might not be easy to answer, but if you were to say, well, the gene mapping or the diagnosis versus the cost of the medicines in the end, can you give us an indication? Is it 10-90, is it 90-10, 50-50?
So the cost of a diagnostic assay is probably running about $1,000 US, and you can get, so that's your upfront investment to then, when you find, so we can't find an abnormality in every cancer yet, but we can, certainly in lung cancer, we're probably pushing 40 to 50% where there's specific targeted abnormalities that you can get gangbuster responses with. And so when you do that, so now, I used to sit on something called the Scottish Medicines Consortium, which I was one of, I think I was the second oncologist to sit on it. So it's very similar. You have to look at the health economics along with the benefit and everything else with the drug. And one of the challenges with oncology drugs is they're really expensive and they would prolong survival by 6 weeks. And so the health economics are terrible. Now you have the situation where you have a drug and literally you're adding years to somebody's life. Now the problem is the pharmaceutical industry, and apologies to all of you guys in the room, think because it's new, therefore the market will tolerate a higher price. And that's where the negotiating has to go on. So you have much more bang for your buck, but you have to bring the buck down to something reasonable.
Thank you.
Other questions? I've got one. You mentioned at the start